am I supposed to know? Welcome to the very well attended Foundational Infrastructure Working Group meeting on May 9th. Let's see what we have. Pending merge, that's exciting. Update auto release pattern. Oh, we didn't even get to see this one. So cleaning up the auto release stuff, which I've been meaning to look at, but Brian actually went and did, so that's great. Don't normally do PRs for CI stuff, but this actually changed sort of the behavior of the release process, so it seems like a sane PR thing. So it checks that. So it still does the checking for patch CVEs, and then that's gonna try, ensure it succeeded, and then it does a try needs release again, and then on success puts release notes. So there was a second thing in here. I don't know. Two people looked at it. It's probably much better because I think I might have had something to do with the first pass of this. We've been slowly working towards a pattern that works well. I think Bosch Director might have gotten there, where it like actually checks. It might still be missing something too, but checking, bumped packages, check for CVEs, actually generate release notes, and then publish. Actually, did that publish when it created the GitHub release? Did it? Oh, no, probably not. Build, finalize Docker.
Brian is member of your team?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't know where it actually puts. Oh, there it is. Put GitHub release. So this still needs. This doesn't do the auto-generated release notes still. We generate some release notes up here for like the CVEs that have been patched, which is swell. But if PRs come in, they don't end up in the way that GitHub auto generates release notes. So we still have this patchwork of different good patterns, and we still haven't gotten them sort of. I don't think there's any repo that does all of them together. It's like this one does this thing good, and this one does this thing good. At some point, we'll come through and have a look. Any progress on these? These for CPI things? Not yet. Or VirtualBox CPIs. Totally fine. Bubble, probably no. No updates on Bubble. EFI supports. The bunch of reviewers. Nobody's reviewed it. That was 2 weeks ago.
Maybe leave notes. So that's the.
Yeah. I'm somewhat confused by this.
Reminder.
Just because I don't know. Oh. No, I guess this is true. Yeah. There was some other Bosch agent thing I was helping along with. Yeah. Yeah, I can see why nobody's reviewed this. You got just random nonsense number magic going on in your PR that's required for root device partitioning. Nobody's too excited to
Yeah, it's not that easy to test.
Yeah.
Verify it's working fine.
I mean, I guess I guess you just build a stem cell with it and it works. I don't know. GCP partitions. Let's see. And this is for the, well, hold on. This is for the Bosch agent. So
Yeah,
presumably,
yes, it's the very beginning of spinning up a VM with a persistent disk. So there is a partitioning step done by the agent with several options,
right.
and EFI is a new one.
And so I'm guessing it's looking to see if the stem cell was built with EFI, and then there's a different beat. Oh, this actually isn't even that long. This is actually mostly tests. But where's the actual code? Is this it? This is like the only code right here. These like.
I wouldn't be surprised it would consist in a few lines indeed.
Yeah.
I've worked on that when working on the Yas native disk resize.
Right.
And yeah, it requires a lot of tests.
Yeah.
Indeed. It's mostly a matter of spinning up a VM with the data chance.
Right. I mean, Long says he already tested it with an
mm.
EFI and a non-EFI stem cell. So at this point, I'm willing to accept anybody who will just say, like, the code looks correctish. Like, even if they don't bother doing it. I mean, the pipelines are going to test a lot of the stuff. Rather, well, there's probably no integration test for it, but like, we're not building any EFI stem cells yet. So as long as it doesn't break, the file's changed. Partitioner. Yeah, no integration test for it yet. We'll get to that possibly when we start integration testing under Noble.
I remember manual tests consist in spinning up a VM, copy the binary as the Bosch agent. Be careful still getting connected to that VM with another SSH connection.
It's bad.
And then but it's testing the technology from
right.
very
I mean,
root of the technology.
We rewrote all that like 3 years ago. And the thing it was doing before was just totally insane. It was doing the same test, it was testing them in a slightly easier way, but it was testing it wasn't testing against the stem cell. It was like spinning up some Xenial. What was it? It was like a Xenial AMI built by some company in Japan, because that was the only. It was the only. I think it was using Packer to spin up the VM. No, it was using Vagrant. It was using Vagrant to spin up the VM. And the only Xenial Vagrant image that worked in a public cloud, because Vagrant's mostly for local dev, was made by some Japanese. I forget what business they were even in. It didn't make any sense, but it was like they published one, so we're like, we're using it. And then that one disappeared. And we started looking at like, what are we testing against? Shouldn't we be testing against a stem cell of some kind? It was crazy.
We still have some plugin stuff. I'm preparing the talk for next week at the CFD in New York. And I was having a look at the Bosch IO index, Bosch IO releases. And yeah.
That's an interesting pattern they came up with for all that. Very much ahead of its time as far as like all of the hashes and everything, like being able to validate supply chain security stuff before anybody was talking about supply chain security of like these things, here's all the hashes, and you know, you got git SHAs to make sure those things aren't changing. And
yeah, I'm not surprised. Danny was kind of guy with concern on tiny bits and details, making sure it's correct from the beginning to the end. But what surprised me is that the metaphor binary is not part of is still at Danny's own repo, whereas it seems that it's a utility used by the Cloud Foundry organization actually.
Yes. All the tooling he built still in his repos. However, all that stuff, he didn't invent any of that stuff. He wrote some code to help with it, but wait, what are they called again? They what's the it's the link. What are they? They're metalinks. The metalink is like
Better
it's like
links.
a thing. Um that's probably not it. Yeah. It's like a standard. Um or
Mm,
no, is it metalink? Yeah, metaphor. Yeah, it's like a standard. So he just wrote some tooling around the standard, and the standard is pretty extensible. But yeah, a lot of the tooling is still in his GitHub repo.
mm.
But like, yeah. Yeah, you can like those metalink files, you can like ask to curl with certain flags and get it to download the pieces that you want out of them and validate the shells and everything.
That's fancy.
Yeah. I am. Oh, that was I was moving bottom to top. I was confused, so I was in the middle here. System D1 that I made. It is not a totally insane amount of. It's a totally insane amount of code. Uh, in fairness, most of the changes in main.go are just moving stuff around. There's actually very few new changes in here. It's just moving stuff around because the ability to disable recursors, it was like spread across 3 spots of the file. So I'm like, I need all of this together so I can wrap it in one if. Um, disable recursors. Yeah, the actual code for what was the new flag? Where's the new flag? System D resolved. Those are the tests. There's actually no code in main for system D resolved, which is kind of funny. It doesn't involve any new behavior in Bosch DNS. Just disabling the other stuff was really the biggest change here. All right. No rush on that though.
Yeah, should have a look. I have some few days ahead with free
It
time for
is
that.
fairly easy to uh actually run and test. If you just, Bosch create release with the branch and then spin up copy the noble stem cell, which are those available publicly? If you want to copy the noble stem cell, just the,
They
the
are not on
pipelines.
the published index in the published stem cell index. They are on the dev or
Oh, that's
not
right.
even
They'd be in the
candidates.
they would be in the Metalink repos.
Mm,
Right. Yes,
mm,
you can just grab them out of there. I normally come in here and get them when they
mm,
put them to those URLs. But yeah, yeah, that's a great spot to get them from. But yeah, if you just spin up one of those and just deploy a Bosch DNS job with those properties, you should see all the craziness happen.
mm.
All right. Fix references to Warden plus VirtualBox CPA. Where are we? Docs change.
I've just seen that a few minutes ago, and I'm surprised I may have that done somewhere on a branch I haven't pushed yet.
Hmm.
But that's fine.
Yeah. This is moving from Dimitri's repo to the Cloud Foundry. Oh, that's right. We moved that. We moved a couple of
Mm.
those repos. Yeah.
I really thought I had patched all those stuff
I feel like
already.
I remember one of your docs PRs changing
Mm,
all that, but
mm. Maybe that's did some there.
we're just gonna merge this one. It was like probably doesn't break anything. All right. Oh no. Oh no, this is fine. Add tests for system D. Bosch acceptance tests. Interesting. Extracted out a service command. Some sanity cleanup. And then we just have
A lot of new commented code.
Not the greatest thing you like to see.
Mm.
If service command system CTL, how big is this? It's not that big. All right. Most of it seems to be this cleanup here, which is not seemingly related. Is this ready? Not implemented yet. Oh, some of the commented out stuff because, well, that's still weird. All right. Well, we'll add some reviewers. We'll ask Ramon about the commented stuff as part of that. All right. Sit
This
here for a
is
second, wait, and then click off. And it failed horribly. I mean, adding it now is not going to add new people. Movers, reviewers. I don't know how that system's supposed to work.
mm.
Share the snapshots of private stem cells. Oh, okay. This is only if you're doing private stem cell sharing stuff, which we
Yeah,
never
I'm
do.
not familiar. I'm not
This
familiar
was
with the concept of shared.
this was done for so the FIP stuff can't be public. If you're building FIP
Mm,
stem cells, your agreement with Canonical says those can't be public. So the ability was added to the Light Stem Cell Builder to use AMIs that are private, and you can share them using some sort of key exchange thing with another account. And so I'm guessing this is related to that. And
mm.
the snapshots backing stem cells also need to be shared.
Yeah, and we know Max, so all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna wait here longer now and hope that it selects both groups. Okay. I'm gonna ask Ruben to fix this. Like I don't think GitHub works this way. I think we need a single group that we can add for everything. Unless that's, I mean, one's approvers, those are different groups of people. Maybe we just, I mean, everybody who's a reviewer is an approver or vice versa. So we should just be using one of the groups to make sure everybody's superset of people's in it, I guess. I don't know.
Mm.
I was supposed to move stuff. Okay. Oh no. It did say, oh yes. Yes. This is something we've been working on for about a week plus now, which is there was a PR
Mm.
to bump the Java version in the Bosch integration Docker image from like something really old to something not really old, and that uh, broke the Bosch integration tests because the version of UAA they were using was 3.5 from 8 years ago, that didn't work with modern Java. So this was
Mm.
an attempt to not use that. I can't wait for all the bots to get cranky about the private keys being added. Um, but yeah, there was, it didn't end up being as big. Getting it to sort of install and use a modern UAA was very, very painful. I guess really it was mostly this, which isn't totally sane, but it's, it's basically extracting the UAA release, the compiled UAA release, extract it, compile it, render for each, like render all the templates, like using Ruby template render. Wait, this file isn't used. This file is not used. I'll mention that. We did have this extracted, then we just inlined it somewhere. Here's where it's inlined. This is basically pulled out of the Warden CPI Docker image where we compile Garden using a similar pattern. But yeah, I assume that, and this is using some template render.rb, which is probably also not added. Yeah, this was an attempt halfway through that we gave up on.
So you guys have given up on that or not?
On what?
What the question is, why not use a stem cell? Why not?
The Bosch integration tests don't run. They don't run. They're not the BATs, the Bosch acceptance tests, which deploy everything and test stuff. They are a step before that of integration tests, where it's just running. It's just spinning up a Bosch director process and testing it against other things. So one of the things it tested against is UAA and the config server and a bunch of different stuff. So it's just running all these things sort of manually in process, and then like running a director process and testing its behavior against them. It's got all sorts of like it's got like a fake version of the agent. It's got a fake version of everything to try to test these boundary layers. It's like not, I mean, it's way faster than trying to spin up, a VM and do stuff.
Yeah,
but it's crazy still.
It's working as a concourse tasks then in a Docker container.
Yeah, it's just running in a Docker container and just running. It's running a bunch of them in parallel. That's one thing that changed here, is that it used to be that for every test, it started a new UAA in a different path and a different temp path. And there was a configuration in where is it? Assets. Here it is. Assets UA config asymmetric UA.yaml. This was basically the UA config. And at one point in time, there was more than one config in here. There was a symmetric one, which I don't really understand what the difference between them was. But that sort of made sense. Like every test could have a different UAA, but at some point that went away, and every test is using the same UAA, but it's spinning up a new one each time. So now we're like, let's just start one UAA and use it for all the tests, because they're all being started and configured identically, and we never change it. It's not like, oh, with here, modify this client. They all come with the same bootstrap config. So hopefully the integration tests get a little bit faster, because they are the thing that is nope, wrong CI. That's all these red things. They're the thing that is 5 hours a piece. So there's 3 of them that run in parallel, and it takes 5 to 6 hours to run them. So hopefully not starting a UAA for every test speeds that up a little bit, but I don't know. We don't have but that's not the main desire of this.
What is interesting is that it's actually doing a lightweight installation of some Bosch release, rendering, extracting binaries, and rendering files.
Right, which is different than the old code, which was, it was a way to, where is Sandbox main UA service? Yeah, this is the old code, which used to just like get the war file and just like run it. So it installed the war file, and like it was like basically it had a bunch of the run catalina.sh and Tomcat server. It was just like doing a lot of the pre-start behavior of UAA, but that logic was manually encoded here. So now there is still some of this, unfortunately, because this lives in we don't run BPM here, and UA uses BPM. So UA's BPM usage is pretty minimal. It just sets some environment variables. So we still have to set these things. But otherwise, we're just using all of the control scripts pre-start. Yeah, we're running pre-start and then running start And then I think we're running post start after somewhere. Yeah, there's post start. Just to, you know, make it so that we don't have to, the reason this is never broken is because we've been frozen for 8 years, but like we'd like to not stay frozen, but we'd also like to not have to change this code every time UAA changes. So this is sort of the
Hmm.
weird middle ground of like, we're going to pull out all your stuff and just like compile it. But not,
And normally this should come, this code should be factored somehow with what is done in the Bushlight Docker image build. Is that what you mentioned previously?
oh,
And
it's doing similar code to, well, the code is taken. So inside
but
of,
mm, it's too complex to factor what's in the Bosch director doing that and this kind of code, which is mimicking what is done by a Bosch director. But this is a use case that has popped up over time, from time to times.
yeah, it might
So
actually be
it's an interesting
interesting.
problem to solve.
Right. And in fairness, this is something the Bosch CLI already does. So it might be
Mm,
interesting to extract this behavior to a Bosch CLI command. Hey, here's a release. Here's a manifest. I want to run this thing.
mm,
Because that's all it does for create-env. Create-env is just extracting out a release, rendering templates, and running its
mm,
commands locally. Sorry, create-env doesn't do that. Create-env does that only for the CPI when it needs to run the C, because it always has to run the CPI locally when doing a create-env. So it does all that behavior for the CPI. Well, that's not 100% true. It does part of that behavior because it's not running pre-start, it's not running start, it's not running all the life cycle scripts. It's just like CPI binary here go. But it's doing all of this adjacent work of like installing the release. So
mm.
that's an interesting thought of like, hey, I gave you a packages path, I give you a jobs path. I guess you can't give it a packages path. It always has to be var vcap packages because if you're using a compiled release, that's often embedded as the prefixes for binaries and things. So you're sort of locked into using.
Yeah, but CreateEnv is also capable of compiling, and it compiles locally.
Yes,
Uh,
well, it compiles locally, but only there is a the GCP CPI. There are some tricks done in these releases that nobody else does, which is Bosch packages dir package else. Yes, this is not
mm,
something package compilation normally does because when the CPI or when the CLI is compiling a CPI, it doesn't have a var vcap packages. So it actually sets
mm,
this environment variable and passes this into the packaging script. So these are the CPIs, since they're the only ones that get compiled by the CLI, are the only ones that sort of respect this. So it's not using, so you could do a similar thing. Um, all the use cases we currently have, we're just using compiled releases already, right? Because we don't want to waste time compiling. But yeah, you could make this a more common pattern in Bosch releases, um, using this path rather than hard coding var vcap packages, whatever.
this is also a requirement for Golang, which doesn't like the Go path to be to include any symlinks because it
Mm,
resolves any symlinks. So resolving them upfront to provide a proper Go path. I guess that's the requirement here.
yeah, it's
And
probably,
that's why there is this trick with that far.
yeah, these would have to do
Normally,
the same thing.
one shouldn't really notice and just assume that the current working directory is where you have everything and where you need to build
Well, I mean,
your
most
stuff.
most packaging scripts actually have to hard code var vcap pack. I mean, does it still hard code var vcap packages? I guess not. Oh, it does. Yes. So if you don't have
Mm,
that, then it's like, well, it's in var vcap package because Bosch, when it's doing compilation, doesn't actually provide this. I think this environment variable is only provided when the CLI is doing it. Otherwise, it's sort of assumed to be var vcap packages, which is maybe a good thing to change. We could start passing this from the director when it's doing compilation. I guess it's from the agent, but yeah, because this hard coding is a long-term problem that we haven't done anything to fix yet, in that this prevents you from having two packages with the same name. So, if you start passing this in and people start using it, then you can start changing it to be, you know what, you're not var vcap packages, wherever we are here. var vcap
But
packages, Bosch Google CPI. Your var vcap packages Bosch Google CPI / Bosch Google CPI. You start namespacing stuff so that you don't have to worry about package collisions having where two packages have the same name and Bosch just like blows up, which you've gotten
yeah,
around by using longer and longer names.
it's not for the target. The target is already the Bosch compile target, but it's for
Right.
finding any other
Other things.
participating
Yeah.
that have been compiled before. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a bit sad that it's not consistent in the two behaviors are
Yeah,
different.
it's
And
interesting the amount of hard coding that goes into some, because like a lot of the like early decisions on Bosch on how to do stuff is just like mind blowing that they got it so right. And it's like so like, oh wow, that was really smart. Like all of the macro structure of CPIs and stuff is just like, wow, you really nailed this on the head, and compilation and things. And then there's things where it's like, we'll just hard code that path. It's like you could have passed that in. There's no reason you couldn't have passed that in. That was an
this
easy
always
choice.
gonna run on a on an
Right.
NPVM. Oh, are you really sure about that?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So there is that was something that I wanted to do when we started having these package name collisions, is really go namespace everything. Because that puts us in a better world. But instead we just made the names longer. Um, unfortunately. That's where
It's
we
not easy
added
to
the
introducing namespaces for packages is not easy. It's a kind of a major restructuring of
it's a
the
major
concept.
restructuring, but there are some things that you already have that surprisingly, because there's already a thing that releases should be using and nobody uses, which is like, you really shouldn't use var-vcap packages, because inside of a job directory, Bosch symlinks all the packages that job wants. So var-vcap jobs some job / packages is like a symlink to the packages folder already. So like if you have these existing symlinks and releases started using those, we could then start making the absolute paths different. And it's definitely a major change, but there's ways of doing it in a backwards compatible way where releases can start doing the right thing. Similar to what we're going to have to start doing for if we want to replace Monet, where it's like, yeah, the old thing still works, but like start moving in the new direction.
And it's taking a long time. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's a correct approach. Yes,
Yeah.
not to break everything at once.
All right. I'm gonna do that and then do the other thing, I guess. Wonder if that group just doesn't have anybody in it. That could be, I don't know. Can I click on it once it's in here? Sort of. Fast enough.
It's supposed to fill any missing names in there. So maybe if there are already names, it doesn't fill anything.
Oh, that's interesting. So it picked the
More than
green
that.
group first, but the green group only has 4 people in it. But it picked you out of the pink group. It just didn't add the pink group. All right. So always the pink group. Pink group is the one that actually has everybody. Well, am I in the pink group? I think I should be. Yeah. So the pink group is it's nearly a superset. That's unfortunate. One person. Why reviewers? I don't even know why.
Reviewers, approvers.
Right. So
And she's not
reviewers is
part
the
of the
first step. You have to
approvers?
be a reviewer, and then at some point you can be a approver.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't fully comprehend the difference. Chris also. Don't know where those stars came from. Comment on that. Probably should have just added myself on this. This might get reviewed by us today. This is something I would not have PR'd because the pipelines have been read for like 2 weeks. Like this is not a behavioral change, it's a testing change. So this might just get reviewed and
Don't
approved by
hesitate to
us.
remove me and add Aram instead. I mean, it's pretty.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I won't have time to.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I don't even think
Okay.
we'll just have our
Mm.
we have a CI pair just
Mm.
review it and merge it today. Yeah, after that gets fixed. Okay.
Mm.
I'm hesitant to look over. Let's only look at the new issues,
Mm.
which, all right, that one's just that. In case there's anything that people need. One says panic. Okay, we're not gonna look at our society. Okay, let's not look at Ramones. Ines, panic, Bosch. What? Running command. It's running the CPI, which is interesting. I was assuming that the only way to get something like this would be huh.
It's the agent. It's a
Oh,
regexp when creating interface. I guess it's the network interface, possibly.
yeah. So this is an error coming out of, well, yeah. This isn't
Max
actually in
network. Oops.
routine. This is an error in the CPI. The CPI is getting some sort of error thrown out of it. It's probably, let's see, does he say the virtual box version he's using? Oh, wait.
Ah.
How is Aram on this already? All right. Have you used VirtualBox 7?
Good question. I'm
What is its current
not
VirtualBox version?
sure. Yeah, I think I bumped to version 7 recently. But that was a few months ago, and
How do I
I've done
yeah,
so many other things since then.
stable release 7? Yeah. All right. Well, Aram gave him some feedback. We'll move that
Mm.
to discussion. All right. Anything else, Benjamin, you want to talk about?
Uh, No, I don't think. Oh, just an ID. I have very often IDs, but I don't commit so much
All we need then is
code.
time to
But
do the ideas.
yeah, in the Bosch generate with the Bosch CLI, the generate job
Hmm.
generates a job with an empty monet config. What would be interesting would be to introduce a dash dash BPM option so that it creates the generic monet configuration for BPM and some empty BPM file.
Right.
That that would be quite easy to do and interesting to support the fact that BPM is nearly a standard now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it might even be interesting to just change it to always generate a BPM YAML
Mm.
and a monet file that, has the monet files when you have BPM are just like a monet or BPM run. But then also with the desire, if we ever get there, for Noble to use systemd rather than BPM, or rather than monet, we talked about there's a issue somewhere for um, what that new world looks like. And rather than a monet file, there's where is that? Monet? That's Cunny's.
Maybe that one.
There's a proposal or a discussion. Where's that discussion?
Discussions are completely different parts. I'm not
Yeah.
used to going there.
Bosch, Linux and Cell Builder. I don't think it was in here. Is it an issue in here? There it is. Nope, that's where I just was. I feel like I wrote a proposal. And I feel like I would have referenced it in here. Would that have been in the agent? No. Oh, wait. Support systemd for Monet. No, that's not it. That's just recent. Somewhere I wrote, wait a second. Is it in the agenda? Monet? Was it just in the Google Doc?
This is another one where that I've contributed to. I think, yeah. It's not aligned with our recent new design. It's just taking IDs.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought somewhere this was composed into a proposal for, but it's not this. It's not this.
No,
This is not the doc that I was thinking.
this is
Somewhere I
different.
wrote something up about like a concrete like proposal of what about this? Um, and I don't know where that is. If I find it, I'll Slack it to you. But yeah, it was basically like take the structure of bpm.yaml and put it up where the monet file is. Call it like service definition or whatever. And or was it actually might have been Jaeger release? It was either BPM or I mean, this is similar to BPM. This is the Windows version where the monet file is this, definition of it's an array of processes, name, executable, arguments, environment variable. It's basically very similar to a BPM YAML. But I think, but like something similar to this, put it up where monet is. This is the new thing. You could in fact symlink this to an existing BPM.YAML, and then the agent basically, rather than processing the monet file, processes this if it exists, if the agent knows about it, because it's going to be FP agent change. The agent's going to have to know, like, use systemd for it. And that gives you, but yes, anyway, your question of like, I think it would also be interesting then to, if we do that work, make the Bosch CLI generate job, make this as the default. And then you actually have to ask for like, no, I want a Monet one. And then it does the old Monet way.
That would be a -- no BPM flag, something.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Please select me the reference to the document.
I'll
if
pick
you
that
find
up.
it.
I don't. There's like 8 spots where it could be. I checked the top 3.
But we have discussions. We have GitHub discussions somewhere.
Normally in the
that's a place
Bosch
I never
repo.
go.
Yeah. Normally they don't. No, I mean, normally they get linked from these meetings. It's like, hey, there's a discussion over here.
Okay.
New
Right.
variable. Yeah.
There is not
Nothing.
there. You will find it.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess we're done.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Benjamin. Yep. Have a good one.
So we don't see next week in New York, but
No. Have fun though.
yeah. Thanks.
See you later.
Bye.